Very pleasant good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon rush. My name is Randolph CRITCHLOW. I want to thank you very much for joining us. Our friends who are joining us in the United States of America, we want to say thank you very much, Canada. All of our members in the diaspora, we say thank you very much for joining us. Our Caribbean friends, we say thank you. We see you every single day sharing the live. Our friends in Antigua, in Barbados, when you come onto the live, you add, share, like, let your friends know that credible and valid information is about to be shared on the APNU AFC Afternoon Rush with Randolph CRITCHLOW. We want to say thank you for our friends right here in Guyana, our supporters who have been by our side, standing with us ever since March 2nd, ever since we started this, bringing you the credible and valid information. We want to say thank you. It has been 343 days since this March 2nd regional and general elections. I don't want to get my numbers mixed up. 343 days since the March 2nd regional and general elections of 2020, and the country is still being held at ransom because we don't have credible information, credible results from those elections. We are still saddled with those tainted numbers that came out of the recount that, of course, we know are fraudulent. It includes fraudulent numbers. And that is how the PPP is sitting in the seat of power. 190 days since they have been gifted, been put into office on those fraudulent numbers. And we continue to watch what is happening. We continue, our MPs are continuing to work. Our supporters are standing strong. We are going to be moving forward with those petitions, even though there were attempts by the PPP and the powers that be to ensure that the fraud that was uncovered during the recount is not heard in the court of law, and try to throw it out on a technicality. Of course, we will be appealing that decision by the Chief Justice, and that appeal will start very soon. We want to say, of course, a big shout out to every single body who is live on the afternoon rush. Remember, I will borrow a line from Sherrod Duncan, who normally says the price of admission is that you share. Of course, participate in the comments. Let us know what you think. We are also live on YouTube for those persons who like to watch on that platform. This afternoon, we are going to be speaking with Miss Annette Ferguson, MP Annette Ferguson. Sorry for that. We're also going to be chatting with MP Amanzo Walton Desir. Those MPs were in Linden this past weekend, part of that parliamentary outreach to region number 10, and they'll be sharing with you what exactly happened on that trip. But before we get into all of that, let me get into my opening take this afternoon. Opening take this afternoon has a very somber tone to it. I want to say that it is extremely sad to think and to see that the PPP really do not care about human and social development, about education, about the needs of our Guyanese people to develop themselves, to become better individuals. It has become very, very clear that this regime, this fraudulent administration, continues to show their color, continues to show what they really believe in and how they plan on governing this country, continues to show us that all they care about is their friends in the business community and the cabal of PPP supporters who stand to benefit from the corruption and the little, hustle money, according to Guyanese people. They stand to benefit. We all see where this country is heading. The macroeconomic development plan is geared to ensuring that the elites get more money in their pockets. And the average man, the average woman will continue to stand and look and take the scraps off of the table of those who are rich. This is the modus operandi of the PPP. In that particular format, that style of governance, there is little space for human and social development. Social programs are put on the back seat. Programs to elevate and to make the populace develop, the people of the country themselves. Those programs are put on the back seat. We have seen in 5 months the closure of so many institutions that are supposed to be able to help persons to work on themselves, develop themselves. The latest being today the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service. This was an initiative by Mr. David Granger. Through the Ministry of the Presidency, the PPP decided that they will close this. For those persons who do not know what the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service is about, they trained young people coming out of school, going into the public service, so that we have a developed and an educated and a professional public service. That is what they did. Young single region of this country, and they were trained there for a year in the ins and out of the public service, and they went into the public service as professionals. This was an initiative that was lauded by many young people from regions that would never have an opportunity to be trained in such a manner, were trained, and then they were given jobs in the public service. Sadly, this is too much of a program. This program was too geared to helping people too much. Under the PPP, we can't help you so much to elevate yourself and develop yourself. That is not what we do in the PPP, apparently. So this was scrapped today. We saw late last week over 100 persons being sent home from the NDMA in Linden. This move today will put 24 persons on the breadline. And this has been the trend of the PPP from day one. And it speaks to a more cynical and senseless ideology. An ideology of ending something if it wasn't you that started it. Because Mr. David Granger would have piloted this initiative, Mr. David Granger would have been the person who initiated this in the vision of ensuring that we have a professional public service. The PPP decided that, you know what? Because it was Granger, we can't continue with it. We cannot continue with it because it was initiated by Mr. David Granger. No other reason. So our country is in a place where education is under attack. And that is a sad, sad place to be. And that is my opening take. I hope that Guyanese people are observing, they are watching, they are seeing what happens when you have a government that doesn't care about human and social development. It doesn't care about education. This was the administration that gave you automatic promotion. That debacle. This is the administration that said that they will give you free education, and when they reach in, they said free education will come at the end. When election time ready to come again, we'll have free education. Guyana is in a serious place. And education is under attack. Human and social development is under attack. In favor of enriching the big boys and the big girls in the business community. Let me say thank you for listening to the opening take. And that, my friends, is the opening take for today. As I said, we'll discuss this matter and many other things today as we welcome in our guests. We are going to be speaking with the regional vice chair, region number 10, Mr. Douglas Gittins first, as we continue with the events of this weekend that played out in Linden. Mr. Gittins, welcome to the afternoon rush.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I am good. I see you're mobile at the moment.
Yeah, yes, I actually stopped, but
Okay.
it's fine. I'm honored to be on your program. It's a humbling experience, I must say. Thank you for inviting me.
Man, it's cool. We always want to hear from the people who are on the ground doing the works. Mr. Gittins, I saw this
Yes.
weekend. Uh, Tell give the viewers an idea of what played out and how and what role you played in all of this.
Well, the honorable leader of the opposition came up with a little brainchild himself and Mr. Aubrey Norton to come to Region 10 to have a fan out exercise where we outlined several things that the government did for the people of this region throughout our tenureship in government for the 5 years. Because one of the things that some of the ministers are saying is that Granger did nothing for Linden, Granger did nothing for Region 10. However, that is not so. So we came, our people here on the ground and the MPs, all of the MPs came to Linden for a fan out exercise. They went to all around Linden, they went to Kamaka, Aichuni, Kakwani. Right? So these are some of the initiatives that they tried to start. We had pamphlets saying to our people what the AP and UAFC did for the country and for Linden and Region 10 in particular. We had the leader of the opposition on the ground in the Mackenzie Market, around the Republic Avenue area, in Caracara, in Retrieve. He stood there and he answered questions. He heard different views of some of the things while we were in government. He took down names and cell numbers. He gave people on the ground his number. And this is just the first step as it pertains to the political work that we have to do to ensure that we get back speedily into government, because that is the outcome that all of Guyana would like to see. And we all know that Linden is one of the places that everything starts. If you talk about MASH, if you talk
Yes.
about different other activities. So we have started the on the ground movement, and this is just the first of many that will happen throughout the country.
Okay. Um, Thank you for that. I know that there were some hampers given out to persons also, but I want you to recount what was your experience in terms of the issues that persons would have raised that they're having in Linden. I know the COVID crash grant was one, but what are some of the other issues?
Well, I must amplify a little bit more for you the cash grant situation, because
Yes.
it seems like it became a political football. As you already know, they skipped houses of persons that weren't supportive of them, especially in those far-flung areas like Aichuni and Kukwani and the riverine communities, where we cannot see what is going on, where we cannot touch ground with the people easily. So they skipped many persons there. For a place like Kamaka, for example, sir, you have like 250 families. Most of our supporters did not get any of the 24,000, and they had complained to him. So that was amplified specifically, that this is something that you guys need to deal with quite quickly. We are still in Region 10 stifled for information, and that came out clearly during the outreach. Comrade Annette Ferguson and her team outlined many of the things that were happening in Parliament. For example, the fiscal management and accountability bill that the People's Progressive Party brought to Parliament. I did not even know some of the intricacies of that bill, and it was a good thing for us to get those types of information. This thing has to be a continuous thing, because as I said before, we we have been stifled here in Region 10 for information for too long. I don't know if this is something that just happened, but every time we are doing an interview, the internet gets slow, and these are some of the things that we have to deal with. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we had a good laugh about it, but it seems like a serious situation. Right persons told us about some of the ways in which they were identified at some of the meetings. For example, the president and government ministers were here, and our people were actually left out of some of those meetings. We had several
Yes.
ministers almost every week, almost every day, a minister is in Linden, and persons have complained bitterly that they have reservations, they have complaints, and they didn't get to meet with the ministers. One lady actually told me, sir, that she went to the Otuka house and her name was not on some list that was there, and she wasn't allowed to see the minister. They have outlined for us 1,000 house lots, and nobody that I know so far have been involved in a conversation of how these house lots will be shared out. These are some of the things that people complain bitterly about in the outreach on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. Let me bring MP Amanzo Walton Desir, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in. MP Desir, I know that we're normally discussing matters of international affairs, but let us talk about some domestic things now. We know you were a part of that team in Linden. I saw your post. What are your big takeaway from what happened this weekend in Linden?
Good afternoon, Randy. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Very clearly.
Great, and thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your viewers and Mr. Gittins. Very interesting and useful outreach in Linden over the weekend. It is very obvious to me that the government has decided that it would wage economic warfare against Linden. Um, But what I am encouraged about is that Linden people are not very easily fooled. They understand that the government is engaging in a program where they are giving with one hand and taking back with another. And they're very mindful, they're very watchful. We had very interesting interactions with, for example, the business community, and they had a number of concerns in that business had slowed down significantly. Outside of that, Randy, there were a number of persons laid off, over 200 to 300 persons from the SIP program, the infrastructural development program. We had about 20 something persons attached to the St. John's Ambulance Brigade whose services were just summarily terminated. You had the citizenship, the security program that was training youths and giving them a stipend. All of these things have just been summarily discontinued. So, Linden people are not fooled. You cannot talk about empowering small businesses when you are taking away the jobs of the people who will patronize and support those businesses. And so it is for the people of Linden to remain vigilant and to don't be fooled. Um, they should, of course, make use of every avenue of development that is provided for them by the government because they're taxpayers and that is the duty of the government. However, they do as well have a duty, and this is what we reiterated to them, to ensure that they're treated fairly, to ensure that they're given what the region, etc., has budgeted for, because the government does have an obligation to all Guyanese, not just its supporters. And so I think it was a very useful exercise. I will say that our people are glad that we are on the ground, and it certainly is the first of what is likely to be a monthly outreach to various parts of Guyana.
I know before the MPs went to Linden, there was the People's Parliament out in Stabrook. You did not make a presentation out there, but I'm trying to get a sense of the need for more of these. The response from persons was that it is good to hear. I know that the parliament has a live stream, but it's a different thing when you go amongst the people and you have these conversations like you did in London. So will we be seeing more of the people's parliament in different parts of the country?
Definitely, that is the plan. As the chief whip has said, we have been trying to make use of all of the legitimate avenues of government to make the grievances of our people known, and those are consistently failing us. And so, what the government is doing is setting Guyana up for chaos and anarchy because people will only take nonsense for so long. And
Mhm.
so, the government will really be wise to end this gridlock and so on and engage in meaningful governance. You know, so we will definitely see that momentum continue. I believe that we are a dedicated bunch. We have um, indicated that we're not going to be giving this up. We anticipate that the government, the PPP in their usual fashion, would seek to oppress and to pick us off one by one and so on. But, we are here. We are here for the long haul. And, in the end, as we saw in other parts of the world, justice and right always wins out. And so we are confident, as Brother Bob said, in the victory of good over evil. Randy, you're muted actually, so we can't hear you.
Sorry, my apologies. I was saying you just hold on because I want us to talk about the Bartram College a little later, but I want to go back to the Vice Chair Region 10 to talk about some more stuff in Linden, and we'll come back to you. All right, Vice Chair, I'm happy that you're still here. What are some of the plans from the region moving forward? What can the Lindeners look forward to, given yourself and Mr. Adams' stewardship?
Well, as I told people recently, it's like we're dealing with a big fire every day. That they're throwing so much things at us that we have to outfire daily. For example, Miss Walton spoke about the 20 persons that have been fired at the ambulance brigade. They look to us for continued help. The persons, 25 of them from the NDMA were sent home recently. They look to us for, so we have to be dealing with all of these things. However, we still have strategic plans that both me and Mr. Adams have. Someone asked me, what do I want to be my accomplishment when I leave office? And I told them something big in agriculture.
Okay.
So my baby is now agriculture. And I said to them, so they asked, what do I intend to have on the ground? Well, I can tell you, sir, for at least 30 years, we were stifled as it pertains to agriculture. For at least 30 years. When the AP and UASC took over in 2015, for the first time in the history of Region 10, they gave us a budget as a line item. And they gave us $18 million to do agricultural development. Right? We are looking, both myself and Mr. Adams, to ensure that infrastructure is there. We have several areas throughout the region that lack a good water supply, potable water. We have
Yes.
several areas throughout the region that have bad roads. If you look on my Facebook page almost daily, I am highlighting bad roads so that the current government could give us the assistance that the people deserve to put those roads in place. Right? We are talking about a good quality communication system. As I told you, we still have a lack of, with Central, a communication entity that can feed us freely with information from Central. We are not getting too much of what Parliament does. For example, we know the newspapers do not give you a clear view on what goes on around the country. So we depend on facilities such as this to give us that information.
On that note, Mr. Gittin, I know you probably were a fan of wrestling when you were small. We're a little tag team now. We're gonna tag in the MP, one of the MPs from Linden, Mr. Figueroa, Region 10, as we talk about this same idea of communications and the radio station and what is happening there. So let's welcome MP Figueroa. We can tag him in on this conversation. I think he's in the room. Right. All right. In the meantime, Mr. Gittins, you can continue because I'm interested to know how the people of Linden, the leadership of Linden, plans to deal with the issue of the radio station.
Well, we are looking for clear guidance as it pertains to the way forward, especially through the relevant channels, the law channels. We are not okay with that end, so we do not want to put ourselves in a situation where we will be going against some of the laws of Guyana. So we have asked for assistance from the leader of the opposition. He has indicated to Mr. Harmon, and they are working on that. He has indicated to Mr. Aubrey Norton, and they are working on that. So we are looking for a clear path on the way forward. Because one of the things, in conversation with the leader of the opposition, he said that clearly, and he wanted to make this very clear, so he repeated it several times. He said she was the one that was responsible for handing over the equipment and the building to the Linden Broadcasting Network. She was the one that came to Linden in his position as Minister of State to hand it over to the then Regional Chairman, Rennis Morian. So there is no other qualms about the ownership of that place. People are saying all kind of different things, how somebody didn't sign something and all of these things. But the former Minister of State have made it clear that he was the one that handed it over. So all should be legal.
Yeah, right. I think persons are looking forward to ensuring that the people of Linden are informed. I think that is part of the problem, that we have a lot of news blackouts in various parts of the country, especially those indigenous communities and the communities in those regions far afield. But we have to ensure that information is easy.
And if I could add to that, you spoke about the riverine communities. We set up several internet hubs with high-speed internet in places in those far-flung areas. And to tell you, sir, almost none of them work. We used to get free Wi-Fi in some of the interior locations of Region 10, and almost all of them are not functioning. These are some of the things that we have to deal with. So corrective measures are being put in place by both myself and Mr. Adams. But we still have a plan for the future of this region.
Yeah. Well, I'm being told by the production team that Mr. Figueroa is not here, but we're going to tag in another MP, because they have each other's back. We're going to tag in MP Ferguson, who was in Linden this weekend too, and get her thoughts on what is happening there and her plans to her. I think she is ready now. I don't know if she's ready. We're seeing MP Ferguson.
Good afternoon, my dear Mr. Randolph Critchlow.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to my colleague on the other side of the program, and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners there in social media. Yes. How do I find you?
Very good. We have online also Miss Wharton Desir, MP, and we're discussing, Miss Ferguson, the recent parliamentary visit to region number 10. I know you were up there. What are your takeaways?
My takeaways, I mean, the activity was an excellent one. our people, they were happy to see us, visit their areas, listen to them, and share with them what is happening. I must let you know that the concerns of many citizens there is that they have seen a whole different approach to the governance under the People's Progressive Party Civic. They're saying that from the time they they came to power, they have been treating their communities unfairly. You had people such as the CDC being installed unknowing to the community without any what you call it, any fairness, right? You had just a selected few were invited to this meeting, and they were told that these are the people they have to select or elect for their community representative. So
Yes.
the people there, they're very much perturbed with regards to what is happening. I think many of the services, because I think what one complaint I got while in Comaka, because I was in Comaka in the mines per se. So what I received is that there's an issue with the water.
Yeah.
Apparently the water where the well was being placed, that is under the People's Progressive Party Civic pre-May 2015, right? The water, I think it has to do with the gravity and all kinds of things, because you gotta dig the well in such a way that, well, look, the water, when the water would be clear water that the people can use. So
Hmm.
what is happening, the water that is going through the various taps, it's not quality water that the residents there in Kumaka can use for drinking, and even washing, because they said the water is so dirty that they can't even wash their clothes with it.
Right. Again, we seem to be having internet issues or connection issues. MP Figueroa is in the room and ready to tag in, though. MP Figueroa, how did the people of Linden respond to the visit?
Good afternoon, Critchlow. Let me thank you
Mm.
for your invitation and
Yes.
to say I'm happy to be a part of your very vibesy program. And I say good afternoon to all your
Yeah,
viewing
man.
listeners. This is what they need indeed, truth. So kudos to you as you're doing a wonderful job. With respect to your people of Linden region were overjoyed with regards to their leader coming. Seeing what he has done for the government, I know that he would have initiated bringing that to where we was with enough the ministers and so forth. So this outing essentially was an extension of what we were doing while we were in government, and the people are familiar with it, even though they had requested that we come earlier. But nevertheless, we needed to come and we were on the go. So myself and my members and other senior political officials yourself was there, so you and being a part of the outreach, you would have known that a lot of issues were raised. Listen to their concern, document those concerns, and they are persuaded that we will make the necessary representation for them so that those concerns can be addressed. Additionally to that, they were very thankful for the hampers that we would have provided. I know the vice chairman would have indicated the challenges and the difficulties some of the residents are facing because of the organization and the celebratory manner in how COVID was distributed. They were indeed thankful for what we had to offer. I see the internet is acting up. acting up
Yes,
again.
it seems to be acting up
I
again.
don't
But
know if you would have heard anything I said.
well, we heard most of it, MP, and some similar sentiments were expressed by the other MPs who were there about the nature of the trip and how thankful the persons were, not only for the hampers, but the fact that the officials are there to listen to their grievances and their problems. Uh, I want to, I think we have issues again there. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I don't know if you heard anything I said. I mean, the
Yeah,
internet
yes,
seems
I
to
did
be
hear. I did hear what you said.
okay.
Let
Yeah.
me just segue quickly before the internet and the connection uh, uh, tosses up things too much. I want to quickly ask you about what has been happening in the region. This is outside of the trip. What's been happening in the region in terms of sport? I know there was some controversy with the ground, and then of course you have the issue of the sports director. What update can you give us on the sport controversy in Linden?
Well, I am being informed by you that there's a sport
No, well, the
director.
issue
From all
of
information that
the
I
lack
have, we don't
thereof.
have any sport director.
Well, but
Yeah, I mean,
the suggested sports director.
well, if that's the individual who's purported to be the next sport director, that would be a travesty. But nevertheless, with regards to your question, sports in this community is known throughout Guyana and the region and the world at large. We have produced the most prolific athletes in all of the sports discipline and athletics for this country. And we find it very offensive that the minister and his alleged representative would come to the community and not saw it fit to engage the leadership in discussions with
Mm,
respect to a proposed world-class facility that the Chinese are offering. Now, this discussion with the Chinese government was initiated under the coalition when Christopher Jones was a very superb director of sport, and they would have
mm,
promised to give Guyana a grant of three um, facilities: one in Region Two, one in Region Six, and rightfully so, one in Region 10. I'm aware that they would have had public consultations with the residents of Region 2 and Region 6, and those persons were afforded the opportunity to say exactly what are some of the features they would like this facility to embody. None of those discussions happened with the Linden community, and we find it very offensive. And what we are
yeah,
also heard is that their intention is to demolish the historic Mackenzie Sports Club community facility. This is a community junk. Besides serving the community with an extensive multiplicity of sports discipline, it also serves the community social and other events. The churches utilize the facility, the Guyana Teachers Union utilize the facility, and there's a lot of promoting utilize the
yeah.
facility. So
We,
facility.
MP, we're having
So
very bad
you hear me?
connection issues. Very bad, very poor connection issues.
Yeah, we.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
You hear me?
We heard most of it. You were breaking up the end part.
So okay, I'm talking about the Mackenzie Sports Club ground, where that's supposed to be the proposed facility. So I mean, a lot of residents welcome the initiative. I welcome it too. It's something that would definitely boost the sports activities within the region, but it cannot be done in isolation of the people who will be the benefactors. And what I'm saying is that they must have public respect to this facility and how it's put together, because this is Chinese money. And I read an article where the Chinese president said one of the key aspect of his government. Here we have an administration who don't want to respect the views and the wishes of the people, and they're professing to be a government that is democratic, and they are about serving the people. How can you serve the people and don't want to listen to the people? So we're saying with regard to that proposed development, it must come to the community, and the community must have its say with regards to where it goes, how it is put together to facilitate the type of sport we want in the community. And as it is, we hold the view that the Mackenzie Sports Club ground should stay without being demolished. All it needs is government to infuse these 200 to 300 upgrade the facility as it is with modern amenities and put a multi-purpose facility somewhere in the Miles Ward or the Millies area. Amelis Ward
Yeah.
has the largest concentration of young people in the whole of Region 10, but they have no facility. So we're saying the synthetic track that is at Wismar conserve the entire Wismar shore. The Mackenzie Sports Club ground with government investing in that facility without demolishing it or building it, put better toilet facility, conserve the entire Central McKinney and surrounding communities. That state-of-the-art facility that the Chinese is trying to give Region 10 as a gift could go somewhere in the Miles Ward and service all of those young people there and provide them an opportunity to harness their skills and their talent. And a
Yes.
facility of that nature being housed somewhere in even if it's at Miles Hideout, the issue of parking would be a non-issue. And
Yeah.
you provide opportunities for businesses to expand around the surrounding venue. As club ground presents a deeper pride with respect to the prospects of
Yeah.
future. So if you have public consultations, these are some of the things that would be unearthed. But the arrogance of the minister and his representatives leaves much to be desired. And I heard the Mr. Irfan speaking about his desire to put 1,000 house lots in Amelia's ward. 1,000 house lots in itself represents the possibility for 1,000 households. The average household has about 8 people, adults, 3 children. You are going to facilitating 3,000 additional young people with no facility in the community that has the largest concentration of young people. Where is the common sense approach to development? And
Yeah.
I'm saying
MP,
government
MP,
to the hilt.
we're having great difficulty in hearing what you're saying, and I don't want your message to be lost in that. What I will do, I'll jump to MP Desire, and let's see if we can sort out some of the internet issues. But I note what you were saying in that development is welcome. And I spoke to MP Sears earlier today when he said the people of Linden welcome development, but some consultation is necessary. Don't just hoist things on Lindeners, don't force it down their throat without consulting them. And I hear you on those issues. What we'll do, we'll go to MP Desir, we'll continue the conversation with her. Um, MP Desir, it seems as though you have the best connection of all.
Yes, it would appear so. It would appear so.
Uh,
Look, Randy, I wanted to, before we proceeded, I wanted to weigh in on um, that whole issue of consultation with Lindeners.
yes.
I saw Anil Nandlal saying in loud headlines in PPP stronghold that any development in that community must be done with full consultation of the people.
Yes.
And so my question is, why is it different for Linden?
So
You
true.
see, and so the hypocrisy is ridiculous. And what I notice is that Lindeners themselves are divided on the issue. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why.
Yeah. But
You have those who are saying, oh, the government didn't do anything. The sports hall is the sports club is in a mess, etc., etc. So why are you
mhm,
complaining now when something is to be done about it? But it
mhm,
reminds me of the parable of when you are entitled to a car and people are giving you a bicycle and you're expected to say thank you. It is
mhm.
ridiculous. Why can you go into a PPP area and Anil Nandal could say consultation must happen, but in Linden, the government can go and foist on what they want. And then there are Lindeners who are so blinded by their own bitterness and all of that in support of the PPP that are willing to allow themselves to be disrespected. Any decent person, any right thinking Lindener would be of the view this. We agree that we need improved sports facilities in Linden.
Yes.
Whatever we determine must come out of a proper consultation with the people of Linden. But you do have people in Linden who are so bitter that they prefer to support incompetence. They prefer to support the disrespect of Linden just to prove their own personal points. And I have no bones about saying that. It is time, Linden, people understand that there is strength in unity and stop having people with their own narrow and selfish agendas. People who, for their own personal aggrandizement, would have them settle for less than they are entitled to. I grew up in Linden. There's no
Yeah.
parking space around MSC for any kind of facility of the kind that Linden needs. And Region 10 is consistently producing the best athletes in Guyana.
Unless they're going to move the pool and put the parking there, because
Yeah, but there's not enough space. There is not enough space. And so those Lindeners who would support this nonsense, I say shame on you, because you should be demanding more for Linden. And
yeah,
you do not see that you are being disrespected by the very PPP that you are supporting because you are so blinded by your own personal agendas. Shame on you. You should be
yeah,
man and woman enough to say, look, this is my community and there has to be consultation, and I have no apologies for that. I have no apologies for that.
yeah,
If your intentions are right, then call on the PPP to do the right thing. If after consultation it is determined that MSC may be best, then so it. But you do not support anybody coming and foist a decision on you because you're so bitter and have your own agenda and whatever else, and you have a point to prove. That is nonsense. And that is why the people will always continue to take people for granted, because they can go in, they can divide, and they can conquer. But Lindeners, we have to rise up and demand the best of the government. If at Luzignan there has to be consultation, then in Linden there has to be consultation too, because Lindeners are no less. We are no less people, lesser of persons than those at Luzignan. And I have no bones about saying that. It is downright disgusting that we are still having this discussion and this disagreement that there ought to be consultation. If it is one thing that we can be united on, is the fact that Linden has always been stronger together. I'm sorry I got a little heated, but I just think it's damn nonsense. I really
no,
think
no,
it's nonsense that
no
that
need to
that
apologize
agreed to be consulted on matters of the welfare of our community.
yeah, yeah. So true, MP. And I'm sure that those sentiments will be echoed by the MPs from Linden who represent. I know you are from Linden, but the MPs that represent Linden, I'm sure they will back you up on that.
I
Again,
represent Linden wherever I go.
right. Let me come to another issue that is just as crazy, and it irks me to think that an administration who claims to be or which claims to be for the people would be so anti-development, anti-social and human development. I don't understand ending something for the sake of ending it because your predecessor was the one that initiated it. I'm thinking about the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service, which serves so many young people, help to train them, put them on the path of becoming professional public servants, and give them jobs in the public service. Uh, what rationale do you see for the closing of the Bertram Collins College?
Yeah, but that question presupposes that the PPP needs a rationale to do anything.
My.
The PPP doesn't need any rational thought to do what the PPP wants to do. The PPP will do as the PPP will do. The PPP have proven once again that they're anti-education, and I say this without apology. This is why they want the sugar industry reopened. This is why they want the sugar industry reopened. Because they prefer for people, and listen to me, I have family and relatives who worked on sugar plantations.
Yes.
You understand? Our ancestors did it unwillingly for close to 400 years. So there is pride in honest labor, but you have to question the motive of someone when you are insisting on resuscitating an industry that no longer is viable at the scale at which it was being operated. And the answer, while we may not like it, is very simple. The PPP is anti-education. They prefer a base that they can control and manipulate with lies, and who are unwilling to engage in a particular level of discourse. And I'm not being condescending, it is a reality. Because the truth is, when you take young people out of these rural areas and they have a chance at training in this manner, you had people from Mabaruma, you had people from the quarantine, you had so many young people who for the first time were exposed to new thoughts, to new ideas, to new ways of thinking, to professionalism. The PPP don't want that. They don't want that. They want a core of people that when they are ready to scare them, that the bottom house, the black man gonna rape your child and whatever and so forth and so on, that is what they want. Because you see, when you become educated and you become aware, you become a threat to the PPP because you can no longer be controlled. And so all that they have proven, outside of the fact that they are vindictive, is that they are anti-education. They are anti a public service that is professional because we know that they thrive on corruption. And so the PPP simply continues to demonstrate to the people of Guyana why they are unfit to lead the nation. Because scoring cheap political points by closing down the college is somehow gives them some sense of accomplishment. And let me tell you, do not be surprised if they come with some kind of a replacement that you see benefiting their people and their cronies, because that is all what it is about, cronyism.
But on that note, we heard about this open college or open university where they're offering 4,000 odd scholarships. That has yet to be materialized. There may be a suggestion that that is going to replace the Bertram Collins College. For me, it is not apples. It is apples and oranges, because the Bertram Collins College serves a purpose for developing persons for the public service, which is an essential part of our bureaucracy and how we get to manage all of what is happening in the country. Scholarships, on the other hand, if you're going to be devil's advocate and say, what, we're going to deal with this scholarship thing, so we can't necessarily afford the Bertram College, it makes no sense, because it's two different things, two completely different things. And there is nothing saying that you can't have this continuing to run, continuing to push out persons who are professionals and going into the public service and still offer scholarships. So I mean, I heard that argument earlier.
It is non sequitur. And if you look at developed nations like Singapore, etc., etc. This is a key feature. Colleges and training specifically tailored for the delivery of public service. They have it down to a science, and this is what I am sure was the vision of that college. So, with a professionalized workforce, what does that mean? It means improvement in the delivery of public service in a more timely and efficient manner, etc., and in a more effective manner. I
Yes.
have worked all of my life in the government service, all of my professional life,
Hmm.
except for 1 year where I worked at legal aid. And so I understand what a proper understanding of um, the public service and how it works and where it intersects, how important that is. And that is what the college sought to deliver. But of course, that is inimical to the interests of the PPP. A
Yeah.
professional public service means that you can't go and pass money and get somebody to turn their face. You can't corrupt the processes because you can claim that people don't know. And so I think Guyanese from all walks of life ought to be alarmed that such an incredible initiative is just aborted. Is just aborted.
Yeah. Yeah. It it is amazing. And as you know, as we kind of close off this topic, many have said that this is, you will see many of these things happening. There is abandoning of social programs that target social initiative, because for the PPP's overarching plan leans heavily towards whether it be infrastructure development or pandering to the business community, and those things will have to suffer, whether it be social services, education, and these things will have to suffer. How was a Guyanese? I mean, we have many persons looking at this program right now. As an average Guyanese looking on, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for the boy or the girl graduating from high school, thinking about a life in Guyana?
It means that you must be prepared to subjugate yourself to the dictatorship of the PPPC in order to eke out a living for yourself and your family. That is what it means.
Wow. Wow.
And we are heading down the road of creeping dictatorship. Like I said some time ago on another program, Anil Nandlal stood up in the National Assembly and criticized President Granger for divesting himself of the power to set the work program and the budget for uh, parliamentary, for constitutional bodies, as if a president saying to a constitutional body, look, you are in charge of your mandate, you set your budget, you set your work program in keeping with your mandate as set out by the Constitution. That is a problem for the PPP. Because guess what? They want to muzzle these bodies. They want to muzzle these commissions so that they cannot protect the constitutional rights of Guyanese. And you know, I keep saying that the PPP supporters are not good students of history, because if they were, they would understand that they are not going to be immune from this. What the PPP will do is they will continue to enriching themselves and their cronies, and the average PPP supporter will be left without.
Yep. So true. So true. And I want to thank you for highlighting those and all of the other topics that we would have covered today. It's always a pleasure listening to you, MP Desir. Um, uh, the good fortune of,
Taiwan.
no. I was about to deal with one more thing.
Okay.
And it would be remiss of me to have you on the show and not ask you about those international relations issues. I see we're trying to mend our relationship that was so badly hurt with China, and I know that we would have gotten back our citizens from Venezuela. But I'll give you the opportunity in one more thing to talk about what is happening on the international front.
Well, we are quite happy that our fisher folk have been reunited with their families. The border issue continues to be one in which we will um, foster a bipartisan approach to dealing when it comes to the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Guyana. We are in agreement that that has to be protected. As it relates to the Taiwan issue, I think the PPP is now caught up in satisfying their creditors, as it were. But I will say no more on that. Safe to say that I think our we as Guyanese, the government, the administration will have to work on. They will have to work on repairing the relationship with China. For 49 years, Guyana has supported the the one China policy, and the PPP has demonstrated that within 6 months it is willing to dash away
Mhm.
foreign policy positions that have served Guyana well. They're willing to sacrifice it on the altar of expediency, and they're willing to prostitute Guyana for
Okay.
returns, not for the development of Guyana, but for the enrichment of themselves and their cronies. We have blundered, they have blundered badly. And like I said in
Yeah.
the statement that I issued, the least that you thought could do is resign. Because there is no way that you know something as major as that could be because of a mistake or a blunder. And so
Miscommunication.
and miscommunication. Like what is that? You have jeopardized relations with a friendly state over, and then comes to say to the public that, oh, it was only an office that was being set up. Meanwhile, Taiwan issues a release that says that they were on the road to diplomatic recognition, to Guyana recognizing Taiwan. And so the PPP continues to be at the mercy of external parties because God knows what they traded away in their bid to be installed into power. And so I believe that we're going to see more of these blunders. We are going to see more of these faux pas because the government doesn't have a clue when it comes to foreign policy, and they don't ask the opposition that could help.
Definitely, definitely. And we know that you are there to help, and it just needs to call. uh, but we want to thank you again for that. We continue to watch, sometimes in horror, at the missteps and the faux pas that you said, that seems to be happening now on a daily basis, giving the PPPs general. And I use the term ad hoc when I speak about their approach to COVID, but it seems that this is how they are governing at this point in time. Lack of vision, lack of.
I want to make one other important point before we close the program. And that is that the people of Guyana, on both sides of the political divide, have to understand that it is time that we put aside petty politics and foolishness and demand from whichever administration is in there proper management of Guyana, because you may feel temporary aggrandizement because the PPP is in power, etc. But some of the decisions that they are making are deleterious to Guyana and its future. And guess what? When it becomes untenable, they will pile themselves and their families on an aircraft and leave because they will
Yes.
have the means to do so. Meanwhile, the masses of Guyanese who can't afford to leave will be left here to face the consequences. And only If only we as Guyanese could wake up and understand, and I'm cognizant that I'm now branded a politician, that we cannot allow petty politics to divide us, but we have to stand up and demand more. The day of reckoning is going to come, and the people who are making the bad decisions will not be here to face the consequences of it. You will be. So you
Yeah.
could sit down and be complacent and be complicit with your silence and your no objections because it might be serving you temporarily. But the danger in that is that when the day of reckoning comes, the people will extract themselves who can, and the masses of Guyanese will be left to bear the brunt of very terrible decision making that we're seeing the PPP being engaged in at the moment.
Right. And that's a very, very good note to end the program on. And I'm happy for your contribution this afternoon, P. Again, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, you're not a stranger to the show, so I don't need to say don't be a stranger. I know you'll be back very soon, as you always are willing to come on and share your views. Thank you.
No trouble, Randy. Welcome. Welcome. It's always a pleasure, sitting and talking with you and bringing, information to the people. I know sometimes the view is that we're talking a lot, but with talking and discussion comes enlightenment, and with enlightenment comes the ability to make better decisions. So
Yeah.
each has its place. So thanks
Yes.
for that.
Yeah. All right. You're welcome. Uh, those persons who are now joining the program, I know we are a little over time, but of course, when we are engaged in conversation, we like to continue and allow for the program to go on. Uh, before we go, as we were talking about in one more thing, and MP Walton is there, brought all of those things up. This idea that the PVP likes to keep persons down, the uneducated nation is not good for them. They like people feeding off of scraps. And I came across a piece, a 30 seconds video by Mr. Tony Benn when he was talking about how do you control people. And I want us to take a listen to that before we go. We're still in the final part of the program we call One More Thing, but I want you to listen to this and I'll ask you a few questions before we go.
People are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to
From the top.
And I think there's an element in the ways in which people are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to govern. And I think there's an element in the thinking of some people. We don't want people to be educated, healthy, and confident because they will get out of control. The top 1% of the world's population own 80% of the world's wealth. It's incredible that people put up with it, but they're poor, they're demoralized, they're frightened, and therefore they think perhaps the safest thing to do is take orders and hope for the best.
Words there from Mr. Tony Benn, and he highlighted two ways you control people. Right? When they're frightened or demoralized. Poor, frightened, and demoralized. I need for our people to ask themselves, are you afraid? Do you feel demoralized? Do we want to continue to be controlled? These are good questions to ask yourself as we ponder and we look around. We look around and we see what is happening in our country. We also have to ask ourselves, when will ever be, when will that time come when we say enough is enough? When will that be? When we say we can't take it anymore? Let us ponder on these questions. As we end the program this afternoon, we want to thank those persons who join us. Remember, we're always happy to have you, our friends in the diaspora, our friends in the region, all of my Bajan friends who are watching and they normally call and they say, thank you very much for keeping up the fight, Trinidad and Antigua. Thank you. Remember to share the live stream. Let your friends and family know every afternoon at 5. We're here with the Afternoon Rush. Randolph Critchlow bringing you the credible and valid information. Help those persons at home. Let us continue to work together for national development. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.
So we're not in the realm of supposition anymore. We know for a fact that people are voting. We know for a fact that people who are not in the jurisdiction would have voted. We know for a fact that there are 47 ballot boxes without documents. These are facts that are incontrovertible. It's not up for debate. We're not unsure about these things. And so I think the only reason that we ended up at a petition was that the court recognized that while everybody in fact recognized that whilst we have discovered these anomalies and irregularities, the mechanism through which we could address them is an elections petition. So it does not negate the fact of the findings. It does not negate the fact that the PPP has not been able to refute these allegations. And so even with this throwing out of the petition, temporarily I would say, because I believe we have very, very strong prospects in terms of appeal, the PPP has not convinced anybody that they have not gotten there by illegitimate means. Because the very mechanism through which we were going to receive, as it were, the imprimatur of the court to say that these actions were illegal, it is the same mechanism through which the PPP could have acquitted themselves of these charges. And so these facts remain, and this is what I want to encourage our people. Don't be disheartened by this. The facts are the facts.